Hello, friends, and welcome back to another Coffee with Carl. I believe this is number 36. Yeah, damn, 36. And I I say that like every time, and I'm like, whoa, 25, whoa, 27, whoa. It just is amazing to me that what had begun in the beginning of the year as a simple, like, hey, I have nothing to do this week, so let me put this up, has become a totally separate series, a separate channel. Some of you I recognize who I've never seen on the main channel, and maybe you feel a little bit more, comfortable speaking in the comments, typing, and conversing with everybody else. So it's really cool because it's like a little community, and it's neat too because the way I see it, I have the patrons, right? So that's a small group, and then from there it sort of trickles down, and we have the Discord, right? And some people just simply don't want to have Discord, or they don't want to be in Patreon or whatever. So then you have the group, which would be Coffee with Carl, right? So you're here with me. We talk in the comments. I get to know some of you. It's really, really great. And then you have the main channel, which is, of course, multiples bigger than this one. But I really love the different types of I guess media, right? Videos to be able to make for these two different channels because they're so different. And matter of fact, that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. Is I'm trying to really focus on the main channel on doing high quality, not high production value necessarily. I mean, although I try to make it as high production as I possibly can, just being a single person, right? But things that are maybe they take a little bit more research. They take a little bit more time to make. For example, this Carhartt one, I had to travel to Detroit. I'll tell you about that in a second. So they are, in my opinion, better videos overall, though it will be at the cost of like a consistent upload schedule. Sometimes they'll come out every week. I have a video scheduled for next week, a video scheduled for the week after that. And, I see those as, kind of moving in this direction, but I think that what we're going to look at is a more quality over quantity type of approach, which is something that, as you know, has always been near and dear to my heart as far as clothing goes and tools and gear and all that stuff. But why wouldn't that be the same way for videos? And one of the reasons that I can do that, or I feel free to do that, is because I have this channel and that we're going to do weekly, we've been doing weekly chats and updates and stuff like that. So I can check in with you and have something that comes out every week where I don't feel like I'm completely losing touch. And so this actually, this approach is definitely not new. It came from a channel that I really like and one that I'll put on in the background often when I'm shooting video. And that's a channel called NYCO. NYCO, I guess, originally began as Nightmare Expo and then shortened it and kind of changed the format of the video a little bit. And it's a horror channel. It's a really good horror channel and probably one of the biggest on YouTube. And I really, really like it a lot. Number one, the videos are interesting. They're very well done. And I like it too because he has not fallen prey to the Mr. Beastification of YouTube, which seems to be the way that everything is going. And I don't mean to sound cynical, but let's be real. That's sort of the way it is. This reduced attention span type of approach, it's everywhere now. So I mean, you have YouTube Shorts, you have TikTok Reels or Instagram Reels, you have TikTok, you have all these like small ways to consume content, and that's okay. I think that Reels and Shorts and all that stuff have a place, but I personally like to dive into something that has a little bit more meat to it. And what I mean is like NYCO paces his videos very well and isn't afraid of dead air and isn't afraid to leave you on a little bit of a cliffhanger before he reveals the next thing. It's a very cinematic way to do things. And I guess the algorithm likes it because it's a big channel. But anyway, I've taken a lot of inspiration from that channel and others to say, okay, well, you know what? It's possible to level up. And of course, the reason that people don't do that, there's several reasons. First is if you're a smaller channel, you go, well, I got to get content out there so I'm like showing up in different places and people know that I'm not just like a one-off channel, right? You want to keep growing. And in the beginning, the more videos you make, ultimately, the more people you get to watch. But that starts to stop. And I remember hearing this a long time ago. Somebody had said that the strategy that gets you to 100,000 viewers is not the strategy that gets you to 1 million viewers. And that's not the strategy that gets you to 10 million and beyond and all that stuff. So, you know, again, in the beginning, it might be okay to just keep uploading stuff and making a name for yourself that way. But if you want to grow beyond that, you can't. To be fair, my goal is no longer growth. I'm happy. If my subscriber count never grew past what it is on the main channel, or this channel for that matter, I really wouldn't care. What I look at more is the views per video, because to me that shows how many people are interested in what I'm making, and whether they hit subscribe or not and stick around, I mean, it's kind of nice, sure, but it's a vanity number. I really like to look at the views per video, and that to me is a much more usable metric. So one of the reasons that people don't do it is, number one, because that is sort of the way. Oh, my garage door just opened. That is the way you grow when you're early. However, I've been doing this for 8 years. I have a pretty large body of work, and if somebody wants to watch a bunch of my videos, they totally can. Most people who are even the most dedicated, loyal subscribers to my channel probably haven't seen all of my videos. So there's a lot of content to consume if that's what people want to do. But to me, the greater goal is that it's much more rewarding to come up with a concept and try to execute it the best way you possibly can. And that Detroit video about the Detroit jacket is a perfect example of that. I tried my best to make a video that I was proud of and that had some humor in it and all that. And it was, I was successful in a way, although there was a lot looking back now that I would have changed. I feel like it started off, I kind of set the hook well, but then it sort of meandered a little bit. And it was tough because I wanted to include all the stuff that Dave was talking about at the archive. And then I also wanted to talk about the models that I have and compare them. I had two choices at that time. I was going to originally have Dave talk about one model he had in the archive, and then I would talk about one model that I had, and then Dave, and then me, and then back and forth like that. But again, it's hard to compare one versus the other if they're not right next to each other. So in a way, that video felt like it had three parts. It had the beginning intro, which was like 2 or 3 minutes, the archive section, and then the comparison section. And I feel like I could have done that a little bit better and had a little bit more continuity between them. But you got to get the reps in, right? So this is a totally kind of new approach, and I think that it's just going to take some time. And I have some other things that I want to make, and hopefully we'll get there. But I'm just really grateful you guys are here and along for the journey. So it's a lot of fun. So Detroit was, I had been there several times. It's quite a city. I heard it's on the rise, and I hope that it is. There are still some areas that are really, really scary. One thing that I thought was amazing was we were driving down a road, and on one side of us was Grosse Pointe, which is this beautiful neighborhood, manicured lawns, old cool houses, a lot of character. On the other side of that road was like very, very impoverished inner city. And it was almost like there was an invisible line down the middle of that road, whereas on one side you had very low income housing and places that were falling apart. And on the other side, you had very high income, beautifully maintained homes. That contrast to me was shocking. And originally I was like, oh, cool, I could do a coffee with Carl from Detroit. But let me tell you, my schedule was I flew out Friday afternoon or no morning, got there, did the video, met with Archive Dave, got to meet and chat with a lot of the people from Carhartt. A lot of cool stuff's coming up, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that, especially in the patron section, because I'm not sure they really want me to say anything just yet. And then so we hung out until like 10:30, 11 o'clock. I went to the hotel, fell asleep, woke up because I had a flight at like 8:30, and I was back home by noon. So it was a very quick trip, but that's what you got to do. I mean, I really wanted to do that video, and I wanted to have that section, and I wanted to talk about the archive, you know, and the history of this thing. And so that's what we did. And it didn't leave any time for the coffee with Carl. So I apologize for being late with this one, but I hope that it's worth it. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about today is actually Stridewise. If you know Nick from Stridewise, great channel. He's been around for a long time. He actually came out with a video that I thought was really good, and if you haven't seen it, you should definitely go check it out. And it's about Indonesian boot makers. He went to Indonesia, and again, sort of like I was talking about with these larger videos where you want to put your all into it, and you want to make some real investment and do it to the best way it could possibly be done. Well, what better way to explore Indonesian boot makers than actually going there and talking to them? And that's what he did. And it's a really good video. Like I said, you should go check it out. I'll link to it in the description. And make sure you tell them that I sent you. Filson has decided to keep raising their prices. The Filson Mackinaw Cruiser is now $550. And I got so interested as to how this is happening that I actually made a graph. I used the Wayback Machine, and I went back into the Filson archive, I think to the year 2000 or so, right when they started sort of indexing websites, and taking note of the price that the Filson Mackinaw Cruiser was. I think the earliest I found it was like $275 or something like that. And then I started plotting on a graph, and you can see a very clear moment where it starts going, it's like a regular increase, and then it just like hits like a second tier, and it's like, oh, well, instead of increasing it, $25 every 2 years, we're gonna increase it $50 every year. And it just like, now, I think that as they're creeping up on the $600 mark, why wouldn't you go for something like Weather Wool, Duckworth, heat straps with their hardware wool? There are just so many companies out there doing, or Dehen, there's another Dehen 1920. Still don't sure. I'm still not 100% sure how that's pronounced. Why wouldn't you go with one of those companies? They're making better stuff. Now, I know the Filson Mackinaw Cruiser is a very particular style. Nobody else makes it. It's timeless, but they've been around forever. So go get it at, secondhand if you have to do that. The other thing that I would suggest doing is shopping at third-party retailers. So Backcountry still has this at the $495 price, though they're going to change soon. I'm sure as soon as they have to order more of these things to the $550. So if you want to save $50 and you want to get a brand new one and you're just tired of waiting, this may be your sign to go get one. 1620 came out with their UPF 50 Plus NYCO hooded long sleeve shirt. And now this is something that I've only really seen in the last few years. I remember the first time I saw one of these hooded sun shirts, I was like, why is that guy wearing a hoodie? It's like 90 degrees. And then I realized, oh, it's not really meant for warmth. This thing's meant for ultraviolet and UV protection. So here's an interesting side note about these things. Number one, if you're going to get one, go for it. I have heard that they make a big difference, especially if you're working out in the sun all the time. Being able to have that makes a big difference. Matter of fact, the guy who I first saw wearing one of these was the dude who was cleaning the pool when I was on my honeymoon. And we were in Mexico. And I'm like, what is that guy wearing a hoodie for? And that's what it was. It was just to protect him from the sun. One interesting side note, and I remember working with a company recently, and they were talking about how they couldn't use UV protection, right? So you see, like, it says UPF, which is like ultra, whatever, some sort of something, right? But why don't they say UV protection, or why don't they say SPF? They technically can't, because I guess you can't like measure that in clothing or something. So they have to use UPF 50 plus rather than SPF. And let's face it, for the consumer, we don't know what that is. I mean, SPF, UPF, is that like miles per hour and kilometers per hour? I don't know. But either way, it will protect you from the sun. And if you have a job, or even are just one of those people who spends a lot of time in the sun, maybe you're a lifeguard, right? One of these might be really good for you. So check that out. The other cool thing is, I know that 1620 made an announcement last week that they have a whole like high-vis thing coming out, which I really hope that they do a great job with, because high-vis vests hopefully until this, they suck. They're these nylon, horrible things that just feel like a bag, and you know, you can wear the lightest stuff like this underneath it, and then you got a layer on top of that with a gross nylon grocery bag. That's what it feels like. So I really hope that 1620 does a great job with their upcoming high-vis vest, because the industry needs it. All right, over at Division Road, Shockoe Atelier, did I say that right? I hope I did, has a really cool looking pair of pants, and I am admittedly a bit of a sucker for camo. I'm wearing this one right now, which is kind of like a shadow camo, you know? Dark, gray, black. I think it looks pretty interesting. And this can work equally as well in the summer if you use lighter colors, which they did here. Now, this is almost like one of those old tiger stripes, but here's the deal with it, is it's final sale. So originally it was $235, which is a lot of money, but again, you know, this is a very, very well-known brand, high quality brand. it's like half off, just under half off. So $120. Now, final sale. Make sure you take your your measurements. Make sure everything is gonna fit. But if you like camo and you want to get a pair of these, we're coming to that point now where I even saw Tractor Supply started like promoting their Halloween stuff. We're just barely into July. So there's a lot more time to wear this, so you can get one now, still wear it this year, put it aside, and then wear it next year. But we're getting into the period of time where a lot of these companies are trying to offload their summer stuff and get ready for fall, which is a much bigger sale time. You sell a lot more units. So keep an eye out for some of these. I'll let you know. The problem is that I shoot these videos, and then there's a few days lag between when they come out. So I'll let you know as soon as I possibly can. And if it's something that's like totally immediate, I will post it in the community channel so you can at least see that. But this looks like a really cool pair of pants, and I am tempted. I'm very tempted. We'll see if they have my size. Red Wing came out with a new sole called their Supersole X. And now this whole thing is supposed to be like class-leading abrasion, heat, and slip resistant. It's also made in the USA. But I don't know. It wasn't too long ago that they had come out with their Supersole and then their King Toe and then all of these different things. And I know that that's one of those things that companies have to do is they have to keep innovating and coming out with new stuff. It's number one, how you push things forward and progress. It's also the way that you make a little bit of buzz about a new product and get people to buy it. So I do remember seeing somebody who asked on the main channel what I recommended for a very high heat sole. I think they were working on a roof. And whatever they were wearing wasn't really cutting it. So this may be a good option for you. They only offer it in 2 models right now, but they're straight up work boots. If that's what you need, then maybe go get a set. But I'd like to see one in person. Sometimes these Red Wing things, I mean, it's got a cool name. They come with a neat graphic and all that stuff. But I really want to see it put to the test compared to something else. And that's why I do these comparison videos, right? Is to see how much of it is marketing hype versus how much of it holds water. Sugarcane has some shirts. They are Madras shirts, and I hope I'm saying that correctly. Again, is it Madras? Is it Madras? Is it, I don't know, something else that I'm not stating? Anyway, these are legit India-made Madras shirts, whatever. And I love this pattern. Number one, they have a couple of different colorways, kind of a black and white, and then what's a little more colorful. The colorful one is the one that I like. I don't know, there's something about that pattern that I just, it's complex, and it almost reminds me of, have you ever seen those overhead shots of like the favelas in Brazil, where it's like, just like this crazy, it almost looks like an abstract painting or something, and there's so much to look at. That's what this kind of reminds me of. But I think this is just it's a cool summer look, and it's one of those things that you know what it is, and nothing else looks quite like it. So I had a pair of shorts or something like this, and they were a little more faded out, but I loved them, and this is just really, really cool. So again, it's kind of hard to find very good summer shirts, but this is one that I forget to talk about a lot. And I'm always talking about linen or lightweight stuff, chambray, whatever, but I always forget to talk about Madras. It's just a really, really cool shirt. And $110, not too bad, really, when you look at it. So sugarcane fits a particular way. Make sure you check the fit chart on all this stuff. I don't want you to buy something really great and then unfortunately it doesn't fit. I have been there, and it's a heartbreaker because you look at it, you think about when you're going to wear it, it's going to feel like whatever, and then you go to try it on, and it's like, oh no, it's too tight in the shoulders or whatever, and then you got to return it. So make sure you check the fit chart. Grant Stone came out with a horse bit loafer. All right, for our weird pick, we go back to the weird pick king, Capital. Capital came out with 14-ounce black denim freewheel flare pants. Wow. Okay, again, what I think that Capital tends to do is they tend to just like let people go nuts with some scissors and then figure out what looks interesting and what doesn't. These definitely look interesting, and I now let me tell you a little bit of a story. Okay, first of all, I don't know okay. How do I begin? These are women's pants. I want to just get that right out there. I didn't know that they were women's pants because the model, frankly, looks quite, it's just ambiguous. I don't know what. I couldn't really tell. And I looked at these things and I was like, they're just so wild that I wanted to include them because they're insane looking. But they also have some really cool looking like details. So these aren't just cut out of the side, the holes. They're actually snaps. So like I guess you could undo them like chaps or something. Why you'd want to do that, I don't know. But I bet you that these are actually pretty comfortable in the heat, right? Like you got like built-in air conditioning, which is cool, I guess. So look, nobody watching this is gonna buy these, I don't think, because they're $525. Now they're really cool looking, I guess. Never saw anything like them before, but wow, looks like somebody just took a pair of bell bottoms and went to town. But I will say this. Let me tell you this little story real quick. I used to work with a guy. His name was Mike, and he was an apprentice when I used to work at this company called Power Unlimited, and he was just notoriously cheap. And he had this pair of jeans, you know, they were like just like American Eagle or Levi's or some kind of like middle of the road jean. And the outside seam was breaking apart. And that was actually one of the only times I had seen that happen. Most of the time they wear out in the thigh or in the knee or something like that. But the seam was breaking. That's again why they do triple stitching and flat felled seams and stuff like that, right? And so he got these like holes in the side of his pants that almost look kind of like this, you know? So like he'd walk down and he had these like holes, and he was saying, he's like, you know, I don't really mind them. In the summertime, it's like air conditioning. I get a lot of airflow through there. But then it started getting colder, and instead of like, you know, taking his pants to a tailor, in typical electrician style, he just put a couple zip ties through and would like zip tie shut his pants. I don't know how that could be comfortable or how it really lasted in the wash cycle, but he wore those things until they were basically threads. And so, Mike, if you're out there, if you're looking for a replacement for your air-conditioned pants, maybe this is for you. All right, that's all I got for you this week. In summer, there's really not a lot coming out. A lot of these companies, they're gearing up for the colder months, and there are some really interesting products that I know are on the horizon, which I can't wait to tell you about when they do come out, but pretty soon. I hope that you're having a great summer, though. I am really enjoying this summer. You know, I like most summers, but this one in particular, for some reason, has been really good. And I think a big part of it is because my kids are, you know, they're 6 and 8, and they're like in the prime of summer vacations, the best kind of thing. So every weekend we're taking them to the lake, and, you know, there was a carnival in my town, parade and fireworks and stuff like that. So we've been doing that. They love doing that stuff. And I'm living life through them, you know, which is great. So I'm having a lot of fun on their summer vacation, and trying to make as many memories as possible, because again, that's kind of all we have in the end. So I find myself more often than not thinking about things that I can do with my kids that they will remember when they're my age. And we now, as fathers and mothers and parents, have the privilege of creating those memories for our kids. How cool is that? So that's the thing I take very, very seriously, and I've been trying to do my best at making sure that we keep making memories for these little munchkins. But they're awesome. We're having so much fun, and I hope you are too. And even if you don't have children, or if you do, hope you're making the most of the summer, because you know these summers, they come along, and you know, if you're one of my friends in the southern hemisphere, you're going through the winter. But the change of seasons happen, and I love that. I love that cyclical kind of thing, because as soon as you get kind of tired of one season, another one's starting to come in. I'm not quite ready for fall. I'm looking forward to it, but I have a lot more time here in summer that I want. I want to go tubing down the river. I want to do a lot of things. But I'm looking forward to, you know, September, October as well. It's beautiful here in that time. So I will definitely be taking you to a couple of different places during our future Coffee with Carl installments. Number one, I'll be taking you to that lake place I was telling you about. It's my little slice of heaven. I love it there. And they open up at 8. So one of these days when it's not raining, which it is right now, I'm going to take you down there. We're going to sit on the dock, and we're going to do one of these Coffee with Carls from the water. Next, I would love to show you my little town. It's an interesting town, a little mill town. And I think it'd be kind of cool. Maybe we'll walk around. Maybe I can get somebody like Albert to come with me, you know what I mean? And we'll just go around. I'll show you the different things that are in town, and where I like to go. And I think sometimes it's kind of fun to see somebody's little home base, but that should be coming too. And then I'm heading to Montana soon, and I'm going to do a Coffee with Carl out there with the mountains, you know, and I think that'll be cool too. So some interesting things coming up on the horizon and a lot to look forward to before the fall hits. So I hope you're having a great one. I hope that you are taking care of yourself and people around you. And we're going to continue now for the patrons. And for the rest of you, I'll see you next week.